Welcome back to Light Talk, where the paranormal and the supernatural is a part of our everyday lives. Once again, I have a guest that's going to just have so many stories, so we're going to get started. So, welcome to the show and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, well, my name is Sam Abrams, and I'm a psychic, and I've known I was psychic since I was about 8 years old. Um, I am a practicing Buddhist, and I am also a Wiccan high priest, and I've been involved in this stuff for a long time. Done a lot of studies and had a lot of experiences.
Yeah, go ahead and start telling us some of those experiences when you first started and how you got started into all of this.
Okay, yeah, good place as any. Um, Yeah, started having prophetic dreams when I was about 8 years old, dreams of the future. Um, the dreams were totally useless because no one was holding up a newspaper or a clock with the date and time and place. Uh, but I knew when I saw what happened the event actually occurred, I said, "Oh, I've seen this already." um, because it wasn't anything symbolic, like, like a dream can sometimes have crazy stuff happen. This is like somebody was videotaping me, except that with all five senses. I mean, I could see, smells, sense, see everything. And that was actually what distinguished it from like a normal dream. So later on, as I grew a bit older, I discovered that I was sensitive to the emotions of other people. I was an empath. And beyond that, as I grew a little older, headaches became contagious for me, where I would pick up, I would go into like a room full of people, and let's say three of them had headaches. I would get them and they would lose them. And that was no fun at all. So I learned to meditate because I was the only way to get rid of the discomfort or pain. And later on, I learned how to shield myself, and that's something that I've become an expert in.
Yeah, you definitely need shield in a situation like that.
Oh, yes. Well, also, I mean, when you're a kid picking up the thoughts of other children, a lot of times those thoughts are not particularly nice. So I tended, like as a kid, now I would get teased and stuff like that. So I just tended to stay to myself.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
So anyway, let me see other stories. Well, I went to an unusual high school where I had the opportunity to actually do a lot of studying on psychic stuff and related things. Um, Met another student who was teaching a course on metaphysics, who is a student of Edgar Casey's writings,
Okay.
The Sleeping Prophet out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. This was back in the 70s. And also took a course on dreams and a course on intro to psychology. So it was a pretty interesting school.
Yeah, you don't hear of that kind of school anywhere,
No,
especially high school.
it was a small experimental school. We had a lot of student teachers, and everybody was given a lot of latitude in what they did. So, like for my gym class, I took a couple of martial arts classes. Um,
Nice.
and yeah, that was a lot of fun. And they were also offered by students, one of whom was a black belt and the other was a brown belt. So they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's what we need in schools now.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. Well, there was a gentleman, Neil Donald Walsh. I don't know if you've heard of him. Wrote a book called Conversations with God. And in the third volume of that book, he talks about founding something called the Heartlight School. He works out of Oregon, and he was talking about creating schools that would focus instead of on just factual information, it would be more on behavior and ideas. So I thought that that was really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear a lot of high schoolers or graduates that just graduated high school, and I work with several of them, and they come out and they say, "Oh, well, I quit school. I quit high school because it just didn't teach me anything. It wasn't nothing I wasn't had any interest in. It's just like I could do better just going, dropping out and going to college." And it's like, wow. I mean, that's crazy to hear these young kids saying things like that.
Yeah. Well, as I went to a very unusual high school, and we could take courses in all kinds of things that we were interested in. We chose our courses. It was very much like a college in that regard. In fact, it was like a very liberal and advanced college, because in a lot of colleges, people don't realize a lot of times you really don't. Now, you can choose a course of study, but the individual courses you don't get to choose once that's set.
Right.
But even
Right.
when I did go to college, I went to a somewhat experimental college where they did not have all college requirements. The different departments had their requirements. But yeah, I went to Livingston College at Rutgers University.
That's
And
cool.
yeah,
Yeah. I'd love to have that ability to take what you want to take. And
yeah,
at least it's going with your study. It's nice to have that course, any
yeah.
course, long as it works for it. Yeah.
Well, in the high school I was at, it was just amazing because, people could do volunteer or shape different programs. I know one gentleman um, who got a job with the Delaware Natural History Museum. And
Nice.
that was his education for high school.
Nice.
But it was like super advanced stuff. I mean, he was studying with some of the top people in the field.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's the only way to get your education. I love that. So, are you going to start up schools around here to do that?
I wish I could. Uh, my focus right now is a lot more narrow, because I've noticed in talking with other psychics and readers and so forth that there's a problem. And especially for empaths, and most of us have the empathic ability to pick up on emotions like I did, but they don't know how to put them down again.
Mhm.
In the they may lack the knowledge about how to ground, how to shield, how to um, cleanse themselves, and most importantly, they don't know how to shield themselves so they don't pick this stuff up to begin with. And
Right.
I've noticed a real problem in the few books that I've read on psychic self-defense. Uh, they almost all of them have this in there about shielding yourself with white light or with some colored light. And to me, that's a really bad way of doing things. And I'll tell you why. First off, it says you're afraid. You're protecting yourself. And there's really no, so that comes from fear. And there's no need to be afraid. Uh, what I do in my shielding is not based on fear. It's based on, I don't want to be bothered. I don't
Okay.
want people, if you want to just watch, that's fine, but don't bother me. It has nothing to do with fear. It has, no, it's all about a little bit of privacy of not wanting to be interfered with. Totally different mindset.
Yeah. So, how do you go about this?
Well, for me, I have an affinity with the element of water, and it occurred to me that still water reflects. So I basically visualize surrounding myself with a mirror, and it's open at the top to allow in higher energies, is open at the bottom so that I can ground and accept earth energies. Everything else just gets reflected back.
There you go.
Now, I can change what types of things come through. And why is my hand up?
Because you put your hand up like this. I just recently found that out. If you put your hand up like that, it has,
Oh.
hey, I have a question.
Hmm, how
Yeah,
strange.
yeah.
So, um, where was I? Yeah. So it's open at the top and open at the bottom, but I can tune it. So, some people say, well, like, they want an on-off switch.
Uh-huh.
Mine is variable. It's like on a dimmer switch. I can
Okay.
adjust both the amount that comes in and the type of stuff that comes in. So that by doing that, I can remain aware of both the positive and negative that's around me without it affecting me, without being strong enough to actually affect me. And
Interesting.
I haven't seen anything in the literature about anything like that. And
Hmm.
I have an affinity for water, but I've developed shields for people who have affinities for fire, for earth, and for air. And they're different for each of the elements.
Excellent. I'm nature. I'm earth.
Ah,
Yeah.
be careful saying that. This is one of my pet peeves. People look at Earth and they think of life in forests and so forth, right? Okay.
Hmm.
It's not. If you really study the element of Earth, it's rock, it's sand, it's basically barren. If you want life in nature, you have to have all four elements in balance. You can't have one without the other four and have life.
Okay.
Also, I love it when people say, oh, yes, I'm going to do a meditation on the element of earth and I'll be a tree. Well, trees don't put roots down that deep and they don't root in rock. So if you want to be the element of earth, you have to be one with rock and with sand, not with just a tree. Same is true for
Gotcha.
air. I hear people talking about, oh, I'm going to be a bird and I'll fly and I'll do a meditation on air and fly through the air. That's not being air. If you want to be air and understand it, you have to be the breeze. You have to be the wind. You have to be the tornado. Being a bird is going through the air. It's not being of the air. So there's a difference.
Yes. Yeah. That's very differently put. So yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. It gives a very deep explanation of really what Earth is and air. And what would you say with the fire and what's our other one? Earth, air,
Well,
fire,
earth and water.
water. That's it.
Well,
Yeah.
water comes in a million different forms. But like again, people say, "Oh, I'm going to be a fish." So no, if you're going to be water, you have to be ice, snow, sleet, rain, a river, a lake. It's many forms, and at the same time, it's formless. Uh, it's also inherently cleansing. Like earth can be seen as being both resistant, but also being salt in as a form of earth is purifying, and it's actually been used for thousands of years as a preservative.
Mm.
Um, Air is just a matter of, well, on a physical level, it's being able to see things clearly, clear air. It's actually any kind of gas. Um, but it's also, if seeing clearly, what's the opposite of seeing clearly?
Fogginess.
Illusion.
Illusion. Okay. Illusion.
So to really master an element, you have to master both its primary and its opposite. So with air, you can see clearly, but to really be a master of it, you also have to develop the art of casting illusions, or if simply also of just being invisible. And for my shield for air, it's based on two things. One is the idea of simply not being there, of offering no resistance, but also of putting up a false target, of casting an illusion so that no, whatever's after you, it goes someplace else and misses you.
So you have to be a rock, earth, to have it deflect away from you.
Well, in a sense,
Shh,
yeah,
bro.
for the Earth can do one of two things. It can either accept it, no, and like no, it resists without resisting. It's just simply there. So whatever happens to it, nothing happens. It's just there. It doesn't react
How
unless
about
it's
it?
something.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you do have things like erosion, but that takes a long time.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask was about that. Yeah, okay.
Well, the other half of it, though, is in another sense, especially again, if you're looking more at the soil, the earth will take whatever you throw at it, transform the energy into things that it can use, and just accept it.
Hmm, very interesting. Very
I remember
interesting.
a very amusing joke that on a totally unrelated topic, but the idea was that it had this plan that was really terrible. It was, pardon my French, it was a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time they got done analyzing it and working with it, it was wonderful fertilizer.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. I mean, we're working with that with doing some why am I always forgetting that word? Um, we're making soil. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Okay. Compost.
Yeah.
Yes.
Composting. Thank you. Um, yeah, we're doing some composting now. So that's been really fun.
Yeah. And
Yeah, just
and we
kind
can
of
do the same thing on an emotional level as well.
taking the trash
If,
and making good.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Yes.
the biggest problem with some of that is that the lessons that we're supposed to learn from karma and from what's been happening are almost never the ones we think that we're supposed to be learning.
They're kind of disguised a lot. I know I've been learning that lately. A lot of disguising and um, but they're right there. Your lessons are right there, right in front of you.
You know,
Mm.
there is a wonderful thing that I copied a while back called the Way of the Spirit, which is Native American. And it's about a woman who's asking Spirit for many different things, and every single time Spirit says no.
Mhm.
And it's like, like she asked about take away the pain. And the Spirit says, no, 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 I'm not going to take away pain. Pain is what helps you learn. It's what brings you closer to me. So, and I love it because it makes you take a second look at what you're asking for and why.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. It does kind of make you rethink things and re-question it. I know I've had to do a lot of rewording in my questions because you have to be so thorough in your questions when you're asking for things. And it's like I'm always stopping myself multiple times in the asking because it's like, wait, no, that's not right. Yeah.
Well, a lot of times, no. Now I've heard on some of the in other places, like when you try and manifest something, you should be specific about what you want.
Right.
And I really disagree with that. Um, I know a person who did a manifestation for red Mercedes. So they got a model of a Mercedes about that big.
Mhm.
What you need to do is not look at the physical aspect, but what do you really need? It's like, okay, I need transportation from point A to point B.
Mhm.
It's not what I want, it's what I need. and then you give the universe room to work. So like you'll say, well, people do a spell for money, for instance.
Mhm.
Well, boy, that kicks in all kinds of problems because subconsciously you're thinking, wait a minute, I got to work for money, or I'm worthless, or the money's the root of all evil. But the other problem is what you really want has nothing to do with money. It's what you want is what money can buy. So if you're asking for money, you're asking for the wrong thing. So, people wonder why things don't manifest the way they want or don't manifest at all. And another aspect to that is that you have to do the inner work to get rid of those negative thought patterns. Because otherwise, what can happen is you might get it, but you won't be able to keep it. If you do happen to get it, it's like it's not going to stick around.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
you're shooting yourself in
Mm.
the foot all the time.
Ouch. Yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's trying to come up with some sort of explanation for it. Not coming, but anyways,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, to me, it's all karma.
okay.
It's the one thing that seems to be consistent across almost every religion and culture is the idea of what goes around comes around, of action reaction, of as you sow, so shall you reap, as you do unto others, so it will be done unto you. I've seen it expressed in a dozen different ways, but
Yeah.
it seems to be the closest thing that I've seen to a universal truth.
And I feel like that's like the number one rule, you know? If you treat others good, then you get treated good.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. I tell people when you throw a blue ball against a wall, what do you get back?
A
A
blue
blue
ball.
ball. There's nobody standing in judgment and saying, this is what you're going to get back. It's what you put out is what you get back. There's no analysis. There's nobody judging, but it sometimes appears that way because what comes back is not just from one thing or from one person or from one event. It gets mixed in with a bunch of other stuff, and it gets mixed in with a bunch of what other people are doing as well. So by the time it gets back to you, and it can be a lot of time in between when it goes out and when it comes back. So by the time it gets back to you, it can be kind of unrecognizable.
I can see that. I can understand that one. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
If you know anything about
Yeah.
electronics or lasers, they have something called interference
Mhm.
patterns where the signals interfere, and so some of it's amplified and some of it's decreased. And they can be very, very complex. And the same is true with karma. You have all these outgoing and incoming signals, and they're kind of interacting with each other. So it's hard to understand what's going on.
Yeah, it takes a long time. I mean, I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to get this concept and try to get it organized in my head of how it works and to make it work, you know, to really understand it enough to where, okay, I have to look at what I'm doing and looking deeper within me in
Yeah,
order for it to be bounced back or even to even just get it out.
yeah.
It's a lot of work and it's a lot of tough, hard days and events that you have to go through. But at the same time, it's feeling really good now that I'm getting past all that. I'm
Uh-huh.
feeling it. It's
Yeah.
feeling really good.
Well, two things about what you said. In my work with shields and the reflective shield,
Hmm.
one of the reasons I work so well is it works with karma because whatever sent at me just gets reflected back. There's no judgment. There's no, there's nothing. It's just whatever it is gets sent back. The only difference is it doesn't reach me. The intent was to reach me, but it never does because of the
So,
shielding that I have up.
so
So I
how
can
does
look at
that,
it as
oh, sorry.
I look at it as working with karma. It was sent out to me. I'm just sending it back. That's all I'm doing.
So how does that work then with your shadows? So if you have shadows you're working with, you doesn't that karma kind of help you out with the shadows? If you allow that to come in to help you work it through?
Well, that's coming from inside, but also as I said, for the one that I use, I allow openings in the top and the bottom.
Hmm.
So that, and if I want divine energy to come in and give me some help, I've got it. It doesn't reflect everything. It just reflects what's coming in from other people, from the environment around me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
but to my
Nice.
mind,
Okay.
karma is really the basis of almost everything around us. I mean, it probably didn't start out that way many, 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 many years ago, but that's the way it is now, and that we are in fact creating our own reality through the karma that we generate.
Yeah.
But no, it's not a matter of judgment, but it is a matter, I think, of lessons. Although, no, that's a kind of a byproduct. But what happens is like, well, if we keep generating more and more karma, the lessons are going to get tougher and tougher. I mean, it's like, the way I put it is like, no, karma will start by tapping us on the shoulder if we don't pay attention or hit us with a 2x4.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I've
But
been hit pretty hard a
oh
few
yeah,
times.
oh yeah, I think we all have.
Yes. I admit that. Yes. But I'm learning. I'm learning to duck now. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So you are doing readings?
I've been doing readings since I was about 20. When I was in high school, I had a reading by a woman in my high school, and it just amazed me by how accurate it was. So when I was at Rutgers University, there was a magic shop in town. So I went and they carried tarot cards. So I decided, okay, I'm going to buy myself a deck. And I've been doing readings ever since, off and on. I spent a year with the Kenny Kingston psychic line, and while I was with them, I did about 2,500 readings. Um, because while I was working with them, I would do anything from 12 to 15 readings a night.
Wow.
And I've had people ask me, well, how can you do so many readings? I get exhausted after just two or three. And well, first off, for Kenny Kingston, they had a 25-minute time limit. Although you could go past that, but if you did, you wouldn't get paid for that time. Um, I know my longest reading with Kenny Kingston was an hour and eight, was 108 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, that was with a lady who was also another psychic. And so, we were talking about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that was quite an education. And I've been doing readings since then. I've run psychic fairs and I've done some other stuff. Right now, and I'm still doing readings, but I do like to focus more on the teaching. And when I do readings, I put in a lot of teaching and counseling as well.
that's cool.
I use the Rider Waite deck, and I use what's called a double Celtic cross spread, which is the Celtic cross, if your people are familiar with it. but with two cards in each position. So I'm actually using a total of 20 cards right off the bat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I don't understand how people, can do just one, two, or three card pulls unless they have like just a yes, no question. Um, and I don't like short readings like that. What I do when I read for people is like for the first 10 or 15 minutes, they don't tell me anything except their name and date of birth. I tell them.
Yeah,
And
that's how I like to do it too.
well, for me, to me, that kind of establishes my bona fides. If I tell them, oh, yes, this is what's happening now, this is what's happened in your past, this is, you've got, you've got this child that's giving you a problem right now, or whatever. Um, and so when I hit on that, it's usually helpful for the rest of the reading.
Yeah. I like to do it because I don't want anything put into my thought. So my ego
Yep.
comes in. I don't want that. I want to just strictly spirit, you know, um, strictly the
Uh,
card telling me.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I do, and that no, it's right in line with what you're saying, and that is I never try and connect with my client per se, except in a very superficial way. I always try and connect into higher spiritual sources and get my answers from there.
Right,
Because if you
right.
tie into your client, you're going to pick up their hopes and their fears rather than what they really need to be hearing and learning.
Not the message, just the ego.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And also, that's why I never do a reading for myself. Unless it's about something like totally stupid, like what am I supposed to have for dinner tonight? And I have a pendulum. I use that for yes, no questions like that. It's like, I don't know what I want. No, which would be better to have. But there's no emotion. There's nothing earth-shaking relating to that. So it doesn't matter what the answer is.
Yeah, that's
But
funny.
yeah, but for anything heavier than that, I'll go to another reader and say, look, let's trade readings.
Yeah. That's I can kind of see that. I mean, I do readings on myself, and sometimes I actually kind of stopped doing readings because I kept getting like the same answer over and over. And it's like, you know what? This is going nowhere. It's just feeling like my ego. So I kind of stopped doing it, and I just started getting back
Oh,
the last couple of days or so.
I'll tell you a funny story about that. This is from Kenny Kingston, my time with them. This one guy called up and said, and asked me, will I get back together with my girlfriend? And what I saw in the reading was that not only was the answer no, but was absolutely no, because this guy was in a piece of work. So I told him this, with toning it down slightly. And he said, damn it, you're the fifth reader who's told me that. I'm going to keep on getting readings until somebody says yes.
Well, there are some like that out there.
Oh yeah,
So,
there are plenty of scammers out
yes.
there, and plenty. Well, the other time I had somebody who I was doing a reading for, and she wanted me to tell me the name of her pet poodle, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to waste my time doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still kind of learning a lot of what pinpointing those kinds of readings for. I know I don't want to do any readings for like people that have just passed because I want them to get settled in their new world and
Well,
let them, when they're ready, they'll come
yeah.
through.
Yeah,
But
it's interesting you say that because I've been asked to do some mediumship type work. And most of the time when I try and do it, I get the equivalent of a busy signal and say, no, Now I'm busy right now. I'm getting ready to reincarnate. Don't bother me. I'm doing just fine. Go away. It's like,
Yeah, I had one that came up kind of like your girlfriend one. Came up and was asking about a relative that had just passed and all of this. And it's like, well, I can give you what I've got because I'm still new. I'm still learning a lot of these little things to go about. But anyways, so I'm like trying to get what I could for her. And she's like, well, you're getting nothing. And she's going around to all these different readers and all, and she comes to this one that actually told her something. And I was talking with one of the other readers, and they're like, yeah, they came to me too, was asking for this. And I was like, that's too soon. They're not going to be able to answer you. And it's just way
yeah.
too soon. So I guess she got her answer, but
Well,
yeah.
another interesting situation. This hasn't happened to me. Well, two things that you'll enjoy. Um, One, this happened to my girlfriend where she was doing it, trying to do a reading for someone, and it just, she wasn't getting it.
Mhm.
And the other woman kept encouraging her, keep trying, you're getting closer. And finally, she said, all right, I'm seeing big cats, like lions and tigers and things like that. And like it's real now, it seemed like really a weird thing to see, but that's what I'm seeing. And the
Hmm.
woman said, you got it. He's an animal trainer for Barnum and Bailey.
See, there you go.
And it's
There
like,
you
but
go.
it took her a long time because she wasn't believing what she was saying. It was so
Yeah.
odd. Now,
Yeah.
on picking up the wrong thing from a person, my girlfriend at the time was doing a reading for her best friend, and she was worried that her husband had a medical condition of a particular kind. It would have been pretty serious. And my girlfriend picked up on this and said, no, yeah, this is what I'm picking up. And she said, wait a minute, this don't feel right. Something's off here. So she came to me and asked me to do the reading. Now, I don't know this other person that well. So I picked up that yes, there's a medical condition, but it's minor. And there's nothing that she really has to worry about. Say, yeah, go see a doctor and like, no, get some antacid or something like that. Like, um, so it's and I hear a lot of people who are doing readings for themselves. And the only time I would even begin to recommend that would be if you're asking for like some guidance, like from deity, like, is this a good idea for me to do? Um, or no questions about spiritual path or things like that, like on internal growth. But otherwise, I would say stay away from readings for yourself, especially like relationships. You're just going to get what you're hoping to hear.
Yeah. The ego jumps in for
Yeah,
sure.
it does.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. I'm
What?
all, I'm soaking it in. Don't worry. I'm soaking things in.
Well, as I mean, generally I use a Rider Waite deck, but I was recently given some other decks, and one of them is Spirit Animal Oracle cards, and they've been really nice to work with. Gotten some interesting insights through them.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of really cool decks out there.
That's
It's
for sure.
yeah, there's so many decks out there. Yeah.
You get
Yeah,
some
there's
that
so
are
many.
serious. There was one that was a dog tarot deck, and it had some of the suits were like bones and cups, bowls, and it was silly. It was not meant to be taken seriously. It was just a lot of fun.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and yeah, I've seen some other There was a joke I saw on online on a Tower Humor site, and it had, instead of the hermit, it had the Kermit. So it had, the Kermit the Frog is the hermit. And it was like, okay.
The Muppets Tarot deck.
Yeah, yeah.
How funny. Oh my goodness. Yeah, if someone has a childlike um energy, I mean that could work really good with them.
Hey, if you look at some of the stuff that Henson did, like with Dark Crystal,
Hmm.
he was actually very metaphysical himself and very knowledgeable.
Very cool.
I mean, he was a very cool person. And I can say this with some certainty because my brother knew him.
Oh, there you
You
go. Oh, awesome.
my brother was a professional puppeteer, and
Wow.
yeah, he met both the Hensons and actually became pretty good friends with Henson's wife, Jane.
Awesome. That's really cool. Were you able to meet him?
No.
Oh, that happens. That would be nice. That would be really cool. That would be cool. Yeah. So,
He was pretty special, in what he was doing, because I mean he brought joy to a lot of people, and he also brought a lot of insight to a lot of people too, I think.
yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Lots of it. Lots of it. Mm. So you've also done some work with the lost and found. So you've been able to help people find their pets and find thieves at work and things like that. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I've only done that a few times, but yeah, there was one. These people asked me whether they had this big half-blind Irish wolfhound, and it had escaped or gone someplace, and so I was able to locate it for them. He was actually running up, and he wasn't staying still. He was in motion, and he was running up and down this utility easement underneath some power lines
Oh
that were
wow.
nearby. So, but the interesting one in that area was one guy. I was doing a reading for him in general, and he comes out with this question of, well, I lost my house keys. Um, and I told, or it was his house keys or his car keys, some kind of keys. And I saw, it was really interesting what happened because I saw this kind of a more or less black and white image of a house. And I was able to describe it to him. And he said, yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds like my house. And and then I saw a glitter in the bushes to the left of the door. And I said, the reason you did not find your keys when you looked was because they never hit the ground. You dropped them in the bush and they got stuck. And if I had been in front of his house, I could have gone to them and gotten them for him. So I saw exactly where they were.
And they were right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I've occasionally I've had sometimes gotten images of like jewelry or some other pieces. It was funny because there was nothing that they were really looking for or aware of. But like when I told them about it, oh, I'd forgotten all about that. Is that where that is?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't know why some of that stuff came through that way, but it did.
Yeah. It's the message, it's the spirit speaking and
Yeah,
what's perfect for that sitter. I mean, it is pretty crazy. You don't know what's going to come out. It's
yeah, no, you don't.
all
Well,
a surprise.
before we run out of time, I have a number of talks and classes that I can give. I do one called Everyone is Psychic, which is something I strongly believe in, or at least everyone has that potential. And that class talks about, well, why isn't everybody showing this? What are the blockages and the reasons for it? And then I have one on developing psychic abilities, although the essence to that can be in three words: meditation, mindfulness, and awareness. That's really all that's needed. Um, I have a course called Tarot Demystified, which talks about not how to do a reading, but how to get a good reading and how to spot scammers. Because, oh, there are a lot of them out there right now. And then almost as bad as the scammers are the people who think they know something and don't. And they're a lot harder to spot because they're actually quite sincere in what they do. But the scammers, you can usually spot them because they're the ones who will say, I have a message for you from so-and-so, or from spirit, or from whatever. And I have never heard of a legit reader who does that. There might be some out there, but I'm certainly not one of them. Now,
There you
I
go.
have had people sit down across from me, and this happened on two occasions where I would suddenly feel a pain in my heart, in my chest. But it wasn't all over the place. It was very specific. And I thought about it and was able to tell them, you have a heart valve problem. And they said, yes, I'm getting surgery in a few days. I want to find out how it's going to go. But no, I told them what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
I hear some people.
yeah, a
uh,
lot of readers won't touch stuff like that. And no, they
mhm.
won't touch legal stuff. They won't touch predicting death.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't have any choice in the matter. No, what spirit know, what spirit tells me is what's going to happen. That's what comes through.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I want to deal with telling about death. That one I
No,
don't want to.
well,
I don't
that
want to play with that.
death is just a transition to another state. But the one time that
Mhm.
I predicted someone's death, um, he was coming down to Florida and he was 92 years old. So, I mean, this wasn't a big stretch,
Right.
but I was able to accurately say that, like, yeah, he's not going to be leaving Florida alive.
Yeah. I've done some things kind of like that. I was checking into one particular person and I was getting some information, but the information got switched because it wasn't the family member that I was thinking of. It was a different family member
Ah,
that it all happened exactly how it came about, but it was a different member that I
yeah,
was thinking it was. But it came about exactly how I
yeah,
was talking about, and this
yeah,
was prior to it. It was
yeah.
like,
Well,
yeah,
I've
two
had
weeks
two
prior.
interesting things happen with readings. One is that I'll start a reading and say, wait a minute, this isn't fuel for the next person.
Okay, wait, stop, back up.
Uh, but the other
Yeah.
was I was doing a reading for someone and it was going in this direction and all of a sudden it went this way. And when it happened at first, I was really confused. And then I realized this person was taking what I was saying to heart and making some decisions and changes that affected the outcome of the reading.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing to see. I've only had that happen a few times, but it's been pretty interesting.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, the first time it happened, it was also really confusing.
Wait. Yeah, that is really neat. That's awesome that the sitter was actually really listening and really bringing it to heart. Like you're saying, took it to
Yeah,
heart and actually really thought about what was going on and making that change.
yeah.
That's really cool.
I wish more people would do that. one of the big problems I see today among psychics, but also among everybody, is that people are looking for the quick, easy answer. They're
Mhm.
looking for the latest pill, the latest nutrition, the latest gadget, whatever. And you were talking about shadow work, and they're avoiding the real work that's necessary, the shadow work, the inner work, that you really have to do if you want to be happy and have lasting changes and just be understanding yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
But just so many people aren't doing that. And I tell people, it's like, no, the mind controls everything. And it's like, if you want to get better, if you want to get well, these other things can act as a nice bandage, a temporary fix, but they're not going to last unless you do the inner work.
Mhm. Yeah. They say that when you're doing a diet, you can't just up and lose like all this weight in a week's time, or you're going to triple it when it comes back on. You have
Yep.
to take your time and do it slowly, bring the weight down very, very slowly. And that's kind of like what we're saying is how I'm seeing it is that to do your inner work, it takes time. You can't just
Yes.
overnight it. It takes time. I've been working on a situation myself, and it's been about a year, and I'm
Yeah. Well,
finally starting to
yeah,
get
you can have
better.
sudden breakthroughs, but that only happens if you've been doing the groundwork first.
Yes. Yeah. It just takes time. It takes valleys and hills and valleys and hills. So, oh, I got it.
Yeah.
And then the next day, boom,
Yeah.
slide right back down the hill
Yeah.
again.
A lot of times it can also take someone from the outside looking at you and giving some advice or some insight because, people from the
Mhm.
outside just see things that you don't.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I keep listening to podcasts and I start keep listening to this and that. And they always give me one word or two that
Yep.
helps me just take a next step higher and understanding the shadow and just helps me out. It's amazing. It's just
You know.
how
And
the
then the
divine
shadows, of
works.
course, are those parts of ourselves that we've repressed or was
Hmm.
traumatized in some way. And it's so often something from our childhood that when we look at it as an adult is minor and is misunderstood. I gave you an example from a friend of mine. As a child, her mother wanted to teach her about sharing her toys. And I
Hmm.
said, okay, when these kids are going to come over and you're going to let them play with your toys. But it makes a lot of sense to us as adults. What the
Hmm.
child learned from this was, I'm not as good as the other children. A totally
Mm,
unintentional teaching that took her a
right.
long time to understand and to process. But that kind of stuff happens all the time.
Yeah. 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 Mine came from childhood too. And it's like, it's hard to reverse it. But when you start looking at where it's come from and how it came about, you can I really see it now and when it's happening.
Yeah,
Like when the triggers come up, I can really see that. It's like, whoa, yeah, I get that now. I'm
yeah.
getting it, you know.
Well,
It's amazing.
I was participating in a summit, which is actually still going on, a women's summit. And one of the ladies said something that I found like really, really interesting. She said she ran a travel agent and was very successful. And the reason she was successful was that she was a people pleaser. And she realized that she couldn't go on being a people pleaser because it was damaging her. But everybody else was saying, oh, yes, no, if you say no, we'll give you more money. So you'll say yes. And she was in this high-end travel business. And no, she was really, really good at what she did. But in terms of her self-esteem and her self-worth, it was not good. But society was saying, oh, yes, this is good. This is what you're supposed to do. And it's like she eventually came to the decision, no, this is not me. And I'm going to have other people in the office do this type of thing because it won't trigger them the way it triggers me. And I
Nice.
thought that was just an amazing, amazing insight.
That's really cool. That is really cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is definitely a windy road, ups and downs, but I am so glad I finally figured it out. I am so glad that it's making its round. So I've got one lesson learning.
Well, just be careful
It's
because
nice.
as soon as you think you've got it learned, I was like,
There's more.
I heard somebody say one time as a joke I saw, I was like, yeah, I finally got a handle on everything, and then it broke off.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always going to be more coming up, but
Yeah,
I feel better about being able to handle the next one because now I have a better grip on that handle that I'm able to kind of pull myself back and say, whoa, what's going on right here?
yeah, yeah,
What's happening now? So I feel like I have a better grip. I feel like that um, I'm going to get there faster. It's not going to take a year and a half or even 50 years or what before I realize this is
yeah.
what's going on.
Before we wrap up, let me just say that I do have a number of classes and articles that I've written up.
Mhm.
Um, some of them are already posted at findmagicpeople.com, and I'll be having a website before too long where I'll have everything up. Um, but if people want to contact me, just give me a call. All the work that I do is on a donation basis. And I do that so that people won't mistake me for being a scammer. So, if you want any of my papers or any lessons with me or whatever, just get in touch with me. You'll meet, and I can put my phone number or my email up if you want.
Yeah, whatever you want to give, we'll put those in the notes below so the viewers can take a peek at that and get a hold of you.
Okay, well, let me see something here. There's the chat. Okay, I should have had this pre-ready, and I don't.
Oh,
That's all
it's
right.
okay. We'll get it in the notes below when I post it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You'll have some time.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I really appreciate you being here. You had a lot of good insight of a lot of the readings and all kinds of information that was really powerful stuff. Really was powerful stuff. So thank you again for being with us tonight. Appreciate you.
And my pleasure. Let me leave you with one final thought, something a little lighter. Um, and now you know how they tell people to be yourself? It because everybody else is already taken.
That's right. I love that. I love that. That's one of my things. I love having people be themselves because they can't be anybody else. They just
Yeah.
can't.
No.
They just can't. So, well, thank you again for being on the show, and be welcome to come back again if you ever want to. Just let me know.
The more
And
the merrier.
excellent.
You
Nice.
tell me how soon you want me on, and I can be there.
All right. Sounds awesome. Well, we'll talk with you again then. And
Great.
if there's anybody else out there that has any stories you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Okay.